When Pastor Allen and the team invited me to come here, I thought, man, what is the most important fundamental problem in our culture and Christianity that I could talk about? And to me, I believe that problem is based in the word selfishness. If we're all honest with ourselves, most of us, me included, live believing the world revolves around us, right? We're all the centers of our own universe. Our culture has really long lost the heart of sacrifice. Your life, as important as your life is really not about you. The Bible speaks clearly to this in John 15:13 when it says, greater love has no one than this, that someone will lay down his life for his friends. How does someone actually truly get there? To be willing to lay down your life for someone. What's that even mean? I think it could mean how most of us probably interpret it, to physically and permanently be willing to die for someone else. Spending 14 years in special operations and doing 8 deployments to Afghanistan. Obviously, I've seen the willingness to physically lay down your life for someone. And it sounds pretty bravado and heroic, but when you think about that for a moment, choosing to die, the risk of death is one thing, but actually making the decision to die and believing that's going to happen, it's an incredible weight. We see it in the Bible when Jesus is before Calvary, before the crucifixion. He goes to the Garden of Gethsemane and he says, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death, right? Even Jesus facing death, you could see the anguish that he faced. In the Garden of Gethsemane, it says he walked back and forth and paced back and forth in the garden and fell to his face 3 times, asking God, is there another way? His sweat was like drops of blood falling from his body. And we see him do something incredible anyways. Through all that anguish, he chose to move forward with his death for us. I think back of my times in Afghanistan, if those who know the story of me doing 8 deployments to Afghanistan, and as our operations start to dwindle and working this clandestine operation, it becomes compromised and we keep operating. I end up over 8 deployments burying 15 friends, and we continue to operate. I get abducted by a foreign intelligence agency. We keep operating. And I reached this point to where every day I woke up and I was absolutely certain, like, today was the day. Like, not even questionable. It's not like maybe I'm going to die. I just conceded to that. To the point to where I was in such a dark place that I would write notes on little sticky pads. I'd write a note to my wife, Kathy, and I put it in there and say, basically like, hey, I don't want you to be alone. You could give her permission to marry. I'd write notes to my oldest son, Hunter, saying, you're gonna have to be the man of the house now. And then my other kids saying, I'm sorry, I'm gone, and I love you. I'd write these notes and put them in the lid of my suitcase because I knew my personal effects would make it home. And then when I get back from an operation alive, I'd throw them away because I was scared anyone would see them. Just the permanence, the processing the permanence of death when you actually believe you're gonna die is such a heavy thing. And over my time in the military, I've witnessed men reconcile that gravity of that decision to die so many times. Men, by the way, with wives and children at home, with lives and futures ahead of them. And I've recently seen this in Ukraine. February 24th, 2022, you guys know the Russian forces crossed the eastern border of Ukraine and invaded the Ukrainian people. Since then, I've been there 10 times. Mighty Oaks Foundation, my foundation has went there, and we've trained over 300 chaplains on the front lines. We've done a lot of rescues for people. And I know what some of you are thinking. You're probably thinking the same thing I do. Like, you're not into the $100 billion getting sent there to President Zelensky. Well, I'm not either. I believe that there's billions of dollars going in the hands of corrupt politicians who have the power, by the way, to end that war within 24 hours is atrocious. And so I'm asking no one to throw anything at me for going to Ukraine, because I'm not there to support President Zelensky. I'm not there to support President Biden. I'm there to help people that can't help themselves. And one of the dangerous things that happens in stuff like this is we get so tied into it that we let our politics cloud our judgment to have compassion for people. And I will never cave to letting my political views keep me from helping people. I've seen hundreds of thousands of women and children there that have literally been killed. And they don't want any part of this war. And so, again, I didn't go there to help Zelensky. I didn't go there to help President Biden. I went there to help people. And we've been able to rescue a lot of people. February 24th was when the invasion happened. I had a friend there days before because we knew it was gonna happen, so we were prepared to be there in advance so we could evacuate people. Days later after the invasion, I found myself heading to Ukraine. On March 15th, I was in a safe house in Krakow, Poland. We were staging, and I believe God orchestrated the timing of this. We had just got these ambulances and all this medical equipment. The reason we did that is we needed to be able to have access and placement to go around Ukraine. Anybody can cross the border to go into Ukraine because everyone's trying to get out, right? So it's pretty easy to cross going in. But once you get in there, it's very difficult because the war is going on. So you have checkpoints and controlled areas. And so the one thing we learned was that really quickly is that in order to get anywhere you want to get, if you're a medical team, you could go anywhere. So we bought ambulances. We got some EMT uniforms, we printed some IDs and got the paperwork, and all that happened. And about 2 hours after we got all this in place, we got a call. I remember the call came in, and my friend C-Spray, he's on our team, he had the phone, and we knew it was important because he held up his hand like for everyone to be quiet. And as he's getting this call came in from the Pentagon, from some of our friends in the Central Intelligence Agency, telling us what we already knew, that the U.S. military and our government agencies were not allowed to go into Ukraine even to help Americans that they need to be evacuated. And so they were asking us if we'd go in. When C-Spray put down the phone, he gave us a brief of what had happened. Fox News reporter Benjamin Hall, if you guys remember, was catastrophically wounded. His local correspondent, Sasha, she had been killed immediately. Pierre Zakrzewski had been killed immediately. The 2 Ukrainians that were with him had been killed as well. And it was Benjamin alone that was alive. We learned later, he lost a leg, his foot, a hand, which they put back on, an eye, his throat and his head was riddled with shrapnel. He was bleeding from his brain. And I remember C-Spray saying, hey, this guy is an American. He has a wife and 2 little girls at home. And if the people in this room, don't go get him right now, he's not gonna make it. At that time, this wasn't just Kyiv, this was Kyiv being taken by the Russians. The Russians had surrounded it, rockets were flying in, the ground forces were pushing in, so it was not the time to go there. We had 9 people in that room at the time, and I remember C-Spray saying, again, if we don't go, he's not gonna make it. Who's in? And every single person raised their hand to go, including my son Hunter. My son Hunter is a Marine combat veteran, Afghanistan veteran as well. Both of us served in Afghanistan. And actually, I've written a book that we're actually just gonna talk about and release today here. It's called Mission Without Borders. And it's really about me and my son going to war together, going to combat together. And me as a father having a fear, not letting him participate. And then that fear turning to faith and God and him to trust him. And that's what the book's really about. But in that moment, I needed 2 people to stay back and run the operations center, and Hunter got left behind in this. And myself and 6 others crossed that border, 2 vehicles. I was one team leader, C-Spray was the other, and we crossed and went towards Kyiv to get Benjamin Hall. C-Spray's vehicles actually got him. A lot happened in that operation, that rescue. When we got Benjamin Hall back across the border, we handed him over to the 82nd Airborne, who was waiting on the Polish side. They flew him to aeromedical evac unit, who flew him to Landstuhl, Germany. Eventually, he flew to Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, Texas, where if you had not heard the story, he's alive and well. He's not only standing, but dancing on his prosthetic limbs. And the next day, we got a request to go recover the body of Pierre Zakrzewski. And man, Pierre is like a 20-year Fox cameraman. He'd been to Afghanistan, covered Afghanistan. Everyone loved Pierre, and they wanted his body. And I made the decision that we were not going to get his body because I wasn't going to risk our team in the middle of Kyiv being taken because we thought it was going to fall that night. We're not going to risk our team to go get a body. But then his wife, Michelle, came into Poland and said, I want my husband. And we said, yes, ma'am. And we went back in there. And I remember when we got to Pierre's body, opening the casket, confirming it was his body, and I saw this flag. He was Irish, and they had threw a flag in the back of his vehicle. And I immediately thought of all my buddies who came back from Afghanistan. And when we send the casket back home, one of the things that we do that's so honorable is we put our American flag on that casket, and the blue goes at the head, and then red and white goes down towards their feet. And I remember thinking this flag, and it's so perfect. This flag needs to go on Pierre's coffin. And so I asked C-Spray, give me some tape. And I started Googling, does the orange or the green go at the top? And we figured it out. And I started putting it on, and I actually got really frantic. And C-Spray came back, he grabbed my arm. He's like, hey, let me help you. And we put that flag on, and I drove Pierre out of Ukraine that night and delivered him home to his wife so he could have a dignified burial. And I say that to say that serving with the people I've served over these years has just been the most honorable thing to see them willing to sacrifice themselves. But aside from the sacrifice of physical death, laying your life down could mean more. It could mean putting your needs, your goals, your hopes, your dreams aside for someone that you love. It could mean to stand against culture and speak truth like this church and Pastor Allen does every Sunday. It could mean putting in the hard work to rescue those spiritually lost. For me personally, actually, those things are way more difficult than the risk of physical death. The truth is I could be a pretty selfish person myself, and when it comes to my goals and desires, most of us, if we're really honest, we can be pretty selfish. But the truth is there's no place for selfishness in God's plan. The world and culture calls us to be selfish. The world says we need to be happy. We need to follow our dreams and be ambitious for our goals. None of the things are all together bad, but if selfishness is in ourself is the focus, our culture will be lost. The Christian life is sacrificial.